I'm Corey.
And I'm Zakiya.
And welcome to our podcast series called
Fight the Swell.
That's right. This podcast will cover all kinds of topics related to hereditary angioedema, or HAE. Both Zakiya and I are living with HAE, so who better than us to guide what will hopefully be a very enlightening series of discussions with our guests.
Before we get started, we need to remind you that none of the information discussed on this podcast should replace your conversations with your healthcare provider. Each of us will be speaking directly to our own experience, and your experience may be different. Any questions regarding your health should be directed to your healthcare provider.
Okay, so today's episode is called Where Do You Find Your Support? Having a support system is so important when you're living with HAE. I know I couldn't manage without all the people who help me on a regular basis. Zakiya, who's going to be helping us with this topic today?
Today, we are so excited to welcome Loukisha to the show. Loukisha was diagnosed with HAE in 2009 and lives in California with her husband and 2 children. Loukisha, welcome to Fight the Swell.
Hi, guys. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited to be here.
So are we. So, to start this off, let's go back to the beginning. Where did you look for support when you were first diagnosed with HAE?
When I was first diagnosed with HAE, I like to refer to it as the dark ages because there weren't any medications that were, FDA approved to treat HAE. And I had my first swell, 2005. It was airway. I was on a vent for a very long time, tons of doctors, all kinds of crazy tests. And it wasn't until 2009 that I actually got a diagnosis. And even with that, there was nothing online. And so my husband and I don't know, we were like a Bonnie and Clyde without all the, the bad stuff. But it was just kind of the two of us just kind of having to figure everything out.
I was diagnosed in 2005, and nobody knew about anything. There was no drugs on the market. It was just like, you have this diagnosis, and that's all we could tell you.
Yes. I mean, it was so, I think it was just mind-boggling because all they could do was kind of put you on a vent, give you some meds, and kind of cross their fingers and hope everything goes okay.
Interesting that you say that. Did you feel like you needed emotional support after you were diagnosed?
I did, but it was so tough because you didn't really know what to ask for. You didn't really know what to say. Like if you broke your leg or you did whatever, you could tell people what it was. You could tell them what you needed. You knew the time frame of what you needed. But when it was this mystery thing that could come without warning, you never knew how long it was going to be there. And it's in the middle of the night or this or that. I didn't know what kind of support I needed. And then also seeing my husband going through things, and my kids were really young at the time. And so seeing them go through it too, I kind of almost pushed the off button for myself. And I really kind of just try to hone in and focus on my husband and my kids.
Now, you mentioned your husband. Was he the source of your emotional support?
For the longest time, it was just him and I. We didn't have really close relationships with either one of our families. And so we just had the two of us. And as we kind of got to know other people, we created our own family, we like to call it Ohana. And that's where little by little, they started to kind of get it. But mainly everything was just my husband.
And what did he do, or how did he provide you that emotional support?
He's a really interesting character. He knows to hold it all together when the crisis is there. And he's just we like to call him Batman. He just kind of whooshes in and he just does whatever needs to be done. And there's not really a lot of emotion shown. And then when it's all over, he likes to kind of crawl over into his cave and then just hibernate there for a while. So when he was my only source of, emotional support, he had to really kind of go outside of himself and start to talk about these things and try to find words and try to understand, and make others understand it, which was hard for him. But I mean, he's just such an amazing person. And I mean, he loves me so much that he was just willing to go outside of his own comfort zone to be there for me.
So, Loukisha, what would you say to someone who does not have a spouse or close friends to support them?
I would say one place that they could start is with their healthcare provider. I like to say that teamwork makes the dream work. So if you can find your A team, finding a doctor who is very knowledgeable, or they may not be very knowledgeable, but they're willing to learn and grow with you. Also, the staff in the office are great at answering questions and finding out things about insurance or educating you. Nurses, they're amazing as well of dispensing a lot of information and also support and holding your hand and, with you when you're coming in for your visits and stuff. And I also found that in different medications that you may be taking, they also offer patient support as well. And they have a wealth of information. They're able to kind of guide you through some of those things with, questions or understanding maybe meds, connecting you and kind of going through stuff with your specialty pharmacies. I don't know if you guys have, had that before, but I know I have had where my specialty pharmacy wasn't quite doing things well. And I just kind of did a little SOS to my solutions team from the different meds I've taken, and they've just jumped right in and helped.
I like to look for support from the medication that I'm currently taking. Their community support group is fabulous. I have met the most amazing people through it, and it has really helped me come out of my shell and pushed me to better myself, as well as spread awareness and help others the most that I can.
And I think that's what's amazing and wonderful. I think when you are able to realize that you don't have to be this big, huge influencer, where you have 1 million people that follow you. If you have 5 million or you have 5, you talking and sharing your stories can do something absolutely amazing and can radically change someone's, world and making it broader and bigger because they find out they're not alone. That's something for my online group. It's one of the things that I like to always tell people. You're not alone. There are others out here that understand and want to be there and support you. We call them our Swell family, my Swell brothers and sisters. We're out here. I think that is amazing that is something that you were able to find, Corey.
Yeah, you too.
So, Loukisha, let me ask you, what other forms of support have you used? Have you done things like support groups, conferences?
Mm-hmm. I think my first conference was, I want to say 2009 or 2010. And during that time, before that, I found this woman's story. I had gotten out of the hospital. I had been in there for almost a month, coming out of ICU. And I came home and I was like, I'm going to find someone because no one else knows what's going on. So I went ahead and got online and this woman's story came up and I just started weeping. And my husband, he's running in. He's like, oh my God, what's wrong? What are you doing? And I'm like, read this. And he's like, okay. So then he started to read it and he started crying. He's like, that's you. That's your story. Has this woman been with us for the past, few years? And I'm like, it seems like it. So I reached out and within 15 minutes, she, had texted me back. And so we just started talking. And this is the first person that I ever knew who could completely understand everything that I was going through. And we heard that there's this conference going and we said, you know what, let's go to this conference. And we met each other for the first time. And there was another friend of hers that came and the three of us were just we're just holding onto each other and just sobbing because it was such an amazing thing it was one thing to talk to them on the phone, but to see them in their live and living color and breathing in front of your face and you could touch them. And we just were weeping. It was just such an emotional time. I think it was a release and it was relief and it was feeling like someone had you. Then we just started talking and saying, you know what? I bet you there's more of us out there. So what should we do to find other people and let them know that we're out here and that they could reach us? And so that's when we decided to make the first HAE group on Facebook.
Wow.
We put the word out and little by little people started trickling in. And like I say, we found our tribe. So it was really awesome.
Now, do you think that there are other things organizations or families can do to increase support for you?
I think that you have to find and know the things that work for you. I think one of the things I try to tell people is it's great to find HAE support groups. That's amazing and it's wonderful. However, that shouldn't be the only support group that you're connected to. It's great that you have your HAE ones, but if you just have ones, like if you're a mom and you have small kids, that's great. If you're retired, also, for me, my faith is a really big thing. So for those of your faith, whatever it is that you may believe, wherever it is that you worship, connecting in that way and implementing those things is really, really vital. Finding ways for your kids to connect. They can talk to other kids or families, who have HAE, but also finding them other things outside of it. HAE takes over so much. So if you can find those moments and times where it's not about HAE, and you're going out, you're talking, you're having fun, you're doing something to kind of get that out of the way and kind of put it over to the side if it's possible, I think it's another really good and healthy thing to do as well.
Yeah, I definitely can say that, like you said, Loukisha, balance is everything. HAE, like you said, it can take up so much of your life, especially when I call it, having a bad spell, where it's kind of like HAE is like ruling this month.
Yes.
So, you have to have the balance to say, okay, like, look, we are not discussing HAE today.
Yes.
We're not doing it. Like, we're going to do something else, watch my favorite Netflix show or something.
Yes.
Because you can mentally be on HAE overload.
Yes.
And sometimes it's just the simplest things that can take your mind off of it, that can be a release for your body.
Absolutely. For us, sense of humor. I don't know. I've learned to laugh at myself. I used to take myself way too seriously. And I've learned to laugh at myself, and we make jokes. We have to, sometimes you'll say something and my husband's like, it's too soon. That was too close to that really crazy swell. And we're like, okay, too soon. And there's other times if my eye's swollen, my son comes in, he's like, "Arr, mateys, talk like a pirate day." And I'm just like, yeah, sure. Okay. And so you learn how to laugh, or if my face is kind of really plump, my daughter will make fun and say, "Oh, is it Chubby Bunny?" We took those marshmallows and you shove them in and you try to talk, and then they'll actually go and get marshmallows and shove them in and like mock me at times.
So
but again,
cute.
It's hilarious. So
Yes.
it's a little twisted.
And it's kind of how, it's their way of coping with it.
Right.
Like,
Yes.
I love that, that it's their creative way of expressing themselves.
Right.
Absolutely.
And bringing laughter to situations, it helps you to get through it and keeps your spirits up and keeps you out of those dark, depressing times, because it's easy for any of us to be feeling sorry for ourselves and stuff. But when you add laughter to the mix, it really just helps everything out.
All righty, Loukisha. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Oh my gosh, I've loved it. It was so good talking to you guys. Thanks for having me.
No problem. We are so happy to have you on today. And thanks to everyone listening. We hope you'll join us for our next episode of Fight the Swell.
Until then, bye everyone.
Bye.